And I have a pretty sizable piece of brain rot for you.
Beginning in early February and running through June, Tammy and I and an assortment of special guests are going to visit 51 cities in the U.S. You can find out more information about this on my website, jordanbpeterson.com, as well as accessing all relevant ticketing information. I'm going to use the tour to walk through some of the ideas I've been working on in my forthcoming book. To this, I'm thrilled.
The location that our daughter worked had called and asked if our son could come into work, and it all took off from there. And there was nothing in the middle, complete trust. And all of a sudden we find out that she had created this world where she works, where she's known as a boy.
That's right, everyone. Jordan B. Peterson is interviewing transphobic parents who alienated their son. And boy howdy, you're not ready for this. Hey, Collab.
So hi, everybody. I'm here with Todd and Krista Colstad today, and they're a couple from Northeast Montana who've had the misfortune to have their sleeves caught in the Child Protection Services maw. And their daughter started making claims of variant gender.
You guys don't get to dictate what brain rot. You guys don't get to pick and choose. All right?
Identity in 2021, and
anyway, remember to subscribe and dono.
Then got tangled in online interactions that led to the arrival of Child Protection Service at the doorstep of the Colstads. And to say,
so just to provide like a little tether to reality here. They were saying stuff that was so inflammatory online that they got Montana's Child Protective Services on their case. And they had to seize their kid because their horrible behavior continued to escalate.
Things went downhill from there is to say almost nothing.
Like it's insane to me that he has on his show 2 child abusers, and like his issue isn't the child abuse. He thinks it's actually pretty base that they were abusing their child.
Highly recommend that you watch this podcast, especially if you regard yourself, let's say, and your family as sort of typical middle-class Americans trying to live a quiet and normal life, because you need to know what might happen to people who are complacent enough to imagine that such a thing is possible under the circumstances that obtain today. This is a cautionary tale, and it's a rough one. So join us and go down the rabbit hole of state-mandated gender-affirming care. Well, thank you for flying.
That's right, Joe Biden trans their kid.
Here and talking to me today. I presume we're going to have a difficult conversation.
We are.
Yes, I imagine so. So we'll start really at the beginning. You have 5 children.
Todd has 5 children.
Todd
Yes,
has 5 children.
5 children.
Okay. And how long have you guys been married?
We've been married 7 years.
Yes.
And together
Okay,
about
Okay.
yeah.
Now, how are your children doing in general?
The oldest daughter is in Canada. She moved away when she was over the age of 18. We have a daughter that's in Kalispell area. We have a daughter that's in the Navy that's a medic. She does fantastic in what she does. And then we have a son that's in Canada that's been with his mother the whole time. That one, they've had a lot of problems, I think. Hopefully he's on track now. And then we have our daughter. We have a daughter, Jennifer, that's been with me her whole life. Every day I went to work, I took her to breakfast every day of her life for the first few years.
That's a weird phrasing. Like one of my kids has just lived with his mom his entire life. Why? What?
She was in school, that kind of relationship. Took her four-wheeling, out seeing nature, and probably the super close relationship because of that.
Okay, now and
Probably a super close relationship. Probably. Yeah, that's the probably is the start of a very strong relationship.
it's Jennifer's the daughter
Yes, Jennifer.
that where difficulties emerged in 2021.
Let's just before we dive into this, let's go over these difficulties here. Here's from an ABC News affiliate here from the National Desk. Montana 14-year-old moved to Canada after gender identity custody dispute, parents say. Well, that's interesting. Let's go through this real quick. 14-year-old staying in Wyoming for gender transition treatment has allegedly been relocated to Canada without their parents' consent. The parents told the National Desk. That's very concerning. Krista and Todd Colstad say they lost custody of their child this month after a trip to the hospital for suicidal thoughts revealed the teen had the desire to change genders. So let's be real clear here. A 14-year-old staying in Wyoming for gender transitioning treatment has allegedly been relocated to Canada without their parents' consent. Well, if they lost custody of the child, then their consent doesn't really play into it, considering they lost custody. But anyway, the child was later taken from the parents by Montana Child and Family Services and relocated to a residential treatment facility in Wyoming specializing in gender therapy. Quote, our public defenders have just kind of told us to be quiet, keep your head down, play nice, let your daughter finish this program, Krista said. When it started to become clear that wasn't what was happening, and we spoke out, custody of our daughter was taken from us at that point. So, to be clear, they're saying because they weren't quiet, they lost custody of their daughter. Which, one, not their daughter. Two, also not their daughter, but in a very different way. Since then, the parents say officials have used their child's treatment against them, claiming they have received no word of what's happening to their child. The couple claims they received notice Monday that their teen had been relocated across the border to stay with their birth mother. So it's not like this 14-year-old just like effed off to somewhere in Canada and they don't know what's happening anymore. No, the child's staying with their birth mom. Like they're living with their Canadian birth mom. Come on now. We got a call last night that they took her to Canada. We got a call after the fact, Krista said. All we were told was your daughter is now in Canada with her birth mother. That was it. Not how did she get there? When did she get there? None of that. Again, you deserve exactly jack and shit. You're not the custodian of this child anymore. The Colstads say they feel completely left out of the decisions being made regarding their child's care because you lost custody. That's why. They have a complete agenda. We have no voice in court, Todd said. They just gag ordered us and threatened us jail time. Man, you guys are doing real good on that gag order, by the way. Parents say they've only been given small details about their child's treatment and that their teen is continuing to be transitioned and referred to only by name and by a different name and pronouns. They've had since August until now to completely brainwash and transition our child. She's not the same now, Todd said. The parents say they believe they have strong legal footing to reverse the decisions given the supposed illegality of the situation. The laws do not allow that, Todd said. The reason they get away with it is because the state has unlimited money to do this. It costed hundreds of thousands in attorney's fees to fight with them, and they can play pretty evil about it. The Colstads' claims are receiving strong pushback from local and state officials. Valley County Attorney Dylan Jensen said in a statement Tuesday that the state moved to dismiss the Colstads' case, but the Colstads opposed the motion. Which, yeah. Had the motion been granted, Todd Colstad's legal right as a parent would have remained fully intact, and the state of Montana would have no more involvement in his relationship with his child. Mr. Colstad and his wife objected to dismissal and requested the state remain involved, Jensen said. Any statement made otherwise is false and inaccurate. So, just to be clear here, just to be crystal clear, the state moved to dismiss the case initially, but the Colstads opposed the dismissal. The dismissal would have retained their parental rights. And they opposed it for whatever reason. This is insane. In a statement to TND last week, a spokesperson for Montana Governor Greg Gianforte said the state generally does not remove minors from homes to provide great gender transition services or use taxpayer funds to pay for those services while a minor is in the custody of the state. Furthermore, the governor has asked his Department of Public Health and Human Services to codify a formal policy and/or develop a regulation to clarify and ensure the definition of abuse or neglect does not include a parent's right to refuse to provide gender transition services to his or her minor child, the spokesperson added. So just to be clear, just to be clear, everybody, just to be clear, I'm the governor of Montana right now, and I want to make it crystal clear. I want to make sure that you can still be a parent even if you're denying your child modern medicine, okay? That's a really important thing for me, a conservative governor that is currently being accused of using my governorship to trans a child. Let's just look a little bit more into this. Okay. While being treated in a hospital in August, doctors began using the child's preferred name and pronouns, which did not correspond to the child's biological sex, which is fine. Parents reportedly opposed and noted allowing their child to undergo any form of gender transition, socially or medically, was a violation of their values, morals, and religious beliefs. Doctors reportedly later moved the 14-year-old to a specialized residential treatment facility in Wyoming, despite the parents preferring a facility in Billings, Montana. Krista and Todd claimed they were given no information as to their child's well-being or treatment during that time. Okay. But then how were they able to move? You can't just, like, move a 14-year-old to another facility unless the parents at that point did not have custody. Oh, in September, the 14-year-old was returned to Montana and placed in a group home. After 4 months, Krista and Todd were reportedly notified that custody had been granted to CFS, and the agency would be allowing the child's birth mother in Canada to ultimately assume care. Okay. We were told that letting the child transition and live as a boy was in his therapeutic best interest because we weren't willing to follow that recommendation. The court gave CFS custody of the child for 6 months. The judge said to us, "You need to expect that reunification with your family may not be what you are expecting." Okay. When asked to comment on the matter, Governor Gianforte told TND that children's rights to grow up in happy, healthy homes with loving families are not always realized. Upon hearing recent allegations related to a child welfare case, I asked the Lieutenant Governor, Kristen Juras, an experienced attorney, constitutional conservative mother and grandmother, to review it. Consulting with the director of DPHHS and personally examining case documents, Lieutenant Governor Juras has concluded that DPHHS and the court have followed state policy and law in their handling of this tragic case. So, I'm going to go out on a limb here. And guess the reason the state took away their custody rights was because something else was going on that isn't related to the trans stuff. Because I don't think the constitutional conservative mom in Montana that's working under a conservative governor, I don't think that lady's reviewing this case and being like, ah, yes, we need to trans the child. Everything's in order. Like, I don't know what else is going on, but I have a feeling, given that the court isn't really mentioning any specifics and the parents are controlling basically this entire narrative, that there's something a lot fishier going on here than just trans kid. Just a thought.
Hmm.
Yes.
And you were around then.
Yes, I was.
Okay. And so what was your view of what was going on with Jennifer in 2021?
So in 2021, she was just 12 and a half when the issue started. And she was a young girl. She had kind of come into puberty. She had struggled with bullying and stuff her whole since about I came into her life when she was in, I think, second grade. And she'd always been bullied in school. So it's something we've always battled. So in 2021, she was about 12 and a half. And people from the church started saying to us, your daughter is saying that she wants to be called Leo and be referred to as a boy. And she's saying that she's your son while she's at church. And so we sat down with her and we said, hey, what is this about? What's going on here? And she said, well, I think I want to be a boy. And we were like, okay. So I had a conversation with her and Todd did too. We had a family conversation about, well, why do you feel this way? Do you think it's because you've always been bullied? Do you think it's because you're not in contact with your birth mom? And as a girl, that would probably be very, very heartbreaking. The person that loves you the most has never wanted anything to do with you.
What? I guess, as we all know, dads can't love you as much as moms can. What the hell are you talking about?
And so we went over trauma and losses and things like that. And I was like, how about if we go to counseling and you explore this with a counselor? Because she's not going to listen to her parents. We don't, how it is with.
What? Oh, kids never listening to their parents. What? What are you talking about? Yeah, no, it's very telling, Fought Night, that, Governor Greg Gianforte is not, a pro-trans guy. He's a conservative. He's a Republican. Okay? All the trans kids in his state can die for all he cares. So what that really communicates to me is that it's something else that's validating, in their eyes, the intervention of Child Protective Services.
With younger kids. Anyway, so I knew she wasn't going to take our advice. So we put her in counseling and we thought we were in a different place. So we really didn't have any more issues with her saying that she wanted to be transgender until the day when all of this kicked off.
Yes.
Okay. So,
Well, that's because you communicated to your child that it was not safe to talk to you guys about being trans. Hence why you would not have any more indications of that until a tragedy unfolded.
well, so let's delve into that a little bit. So, Todd, you said that you spent a lot of time with Jennifer.
Whole life.
Okay. And you also, both of you pointed out that she was bullied in school from a young age. So did she have friends at school, or was she?
Very few friends.
Okay. And did you have any sense of what it was that was attracting the attention of the bullies?
Yes, kind of. Because prior to moving back to where we live now, the problem started at 12 and it was mostly lying, crazy lies. So the school, we met with their counselors there and they said what the kids are doing to be mean are wrong, but she's bringing it on herself with her actions. So she's partly accountable too. And where we live now, the school is fantastic. The counselors,
Yes. Your child deserved to be bullied. The school is fantastic and has great counselors. I don't know, something tells me that if like a school counselor told me that my child deserved to be bullied, I would not think very highly of that school or that counselor or anyone really involved.
Principal, the staff is just fantastic. And so she would come home and we'd find out that kids there told her to kill herself. And the school would require them to write a note saying, apologizing. The school apologized, and that's how she was treated. But we would check her status every single day, find out how every single day went with her. We were proactive with the school, and things were really good, with her life. Other than
Well, so what do you think was going on with regards to the story she was telling? You made some mention of lying that she was doing at school, and so what do you think was happening with?
Oh, interesting. Just looking into this, here's a piece by the Montana Free Press. So they've actually gotten access to the court records here. And just to be clear here, critics in Montana and nationwide have accused state workers with the Department of Public Health and Human Services of wrongly taking the 14-year-old into custody because the teen's father and stepmother did not support their child's transgender identity. That narrative has been promoted by the Colstads in several interviews with national and international outlets about the case. But according to court records shared with the Montana Free Press, over the course of several months, state workers emphasized that the removal hinged on the parents' resistance to sending their teen to an out-of-state psychiatric facility last August to be treated for suicidal thoughts. The parents feared, the records show, that the minor could access gender-affirming medical care upon leaving Montana's borders. So basically, they wanted to refuse their child the mental health help that they need that he needed in order to not kill himself. And they were more concerned with their child being potentially able to access HRT or gender affirming services than they were about their child wanting to kill themselves. Like, just they were more worried about potentially the transing of their child's gender than their child potentially trying to kill themselves. How deeply, deeply perverted are your goals as a parent when that's your priority ranking? Yeah. As the Montana Free Press has previously reported, the Colstad's concern was based on an inaccurate understanding that a Montana law barring gender-affirming care for transgender minors was in effect. That law, Senate Bill 99, was not slated to take effect until October 1st, a typical effective date for many pieces of legislation passed in the most recent legislative session. The law was temporarily blocked in court in September while litigation over its constitutionality continues. After spending a month in the Wyoming Behavioral Institute at the recommendations of Glasgow medical staff, the teenager in this case was transferred to a group home in Montana while custody negotiations with the Colstads continued. There, the Colstads took issue with the teen being able to socially transition by using their chosen name and pronouns and wearing preferred clothing and hairstyles. Court filings and email correspondence between the Colstads, state child protection workers, and attorneys on the case show that these fights and other disputes over a state-issued treatment plan for the family derailed the family's reunification, with the Colstads claiming they were being forced to accept their child's gender identity, and the state contesting that the parents were being uncooperative. So, yeah. Basically, they were upset that their child might transition if allowed to go to another state, and they were upset that their child could use the name that they preferred and the pronouns they preferred while in a group psychiatric home. Like, again, their priority was not over the health of their child, but it was literally over like what words people use to refer to their child. Insane.
With that.
It's strange. We wanted that diagnosed. It wouldn't just be lying. It'd be lying about good things and bad things. We didn't know where it would come from. So our only rule with her
Can you give any examples, sir?
was you have to tell the truth. And we'd explain to her the importance of telling the truth. So from the standpoint of how we got here, there was never, through these years, there's never been issues of transgender. There hasn't been issues of any of that. It's been lying, that kind of thing.
And I think with school, just as a girl, I can say she's always been super, super smart, like always straight A's, off the chart smarts.
Oh, as a girl, only girls can be smart.
And I asked them, do you think she could be on the spectrum somewhere? And we're looking at some things going on there, but I've never got a diagnosis.
Is she creative?
Very, very creative.
Yes.
You see,
Oh, my child was smart, so clearly they must be autistic. Man, I don't usually want to just like right off the bat say like fuck these people, but seriously, fuck these people.
the reason I'm asking about that, well, partly it's the lies. I'm curious about that with regards to like an active fantasy life, let's say. But it's also the case that I believe that the kids who are more likely to be attracted by these gender fluid ideologies are likely to be creative, open kids who have, in some way, have a more fluid identity because they're creative. This is
Yes, more fluid individuals might have more fluid identities. Fascinating stuff from... I don't know, can he even call himself a psychologist anymore?
is attractive to them. And you also portrayed your daughter at school, at least as a bit of an outsider. And so one of the attractions of this gender ideology is that it gives kids who are outsiders and who are uncertain about their identity.
Johnny, we know that. Montana has some very, very lovely people in it.
A way of being,
Hashtag
and also
not
a way
all
of
Montanans.
being outstanding and recognized for something new. Now, the school that she was at in 2021, is that the school you were referring to where you believe they are doing a good job?
Yes.
So where do you think she picked up these ideas about gender transition?
Oh, that's easy. TikTok is one. I think there's predators on there that lead kids that are more the outsiders into a specific direction. That's a big one.
Yeah, all those predators talking about how it's okay to be yourself. All of the predators on there with the rainbow flags, Like, there are bad faith actors who will clothe themselves in all kinds of different ways to, like, get close to people they're going to abuse. But, like, generally speaking, it's not going to be, like, I don't know, a TikTok of, like, a teacher talking about how, like, oh, I'm here for you guys. If your parents don't support you, I will support you. No matter what, I will support. Like, that, to him, that teacher would be a predator grooming all of these trans kids, Like, to someone like this, any amount of affirmation, whether acknowledging someone's new pronouns or using their new preferred name, like, any amount of acknowledgement is grooming them to this guy.
And then there's other kids already in that boat that are also seduced by those kind of things, so to speak. And so the church was telling us and her counselors that she's running with a lot of those kind of kids, is what we're being told.
Well,
Right.
and we had
She, our kid was running with a lot of those kinds of kids, Jordan. You know what I mean? The queers, the blue hairs.
measures in place. Like she just didn't have free reign of the internet. Like we had apps on that controlled where she could go and stuff. But when she left our house,
Gee, I wonder why all of your children want to be far away from you. Anyway,
I know she was going to friends'
hey,
house who
content
don't
sniffer.
have those measures in place. So she's getting access to, social media, even though it's not in our house, she's still getting access to it.
Right. And these friends, like, did you have any sense of who they were, what they were like?
So, just to be clear, they're alleging that their kid didn't have access to TikTok, but their kid would hang out with other friends that had access to TikTok, and through the Friends apps on their phones, the Friends TikTok apps, their kid was then transed. Is this like suburban Republican, the suburban Republican version of like fentanyl, where like, what man, one sniff of that TikTok and suddenly boom, get 12 years on HRT and you got tits the size of Atlantis. Like what do you what's happening here?
We met some of them. We tried to help them. They were kids. One of them would walk to a town 15 miles away in the winter without a coat, and we gave him a coat. And we tried to monitor that. And
why did one of those kids try to walk 15 miles in the winter without a coat? What would motivate someone to do that? We took these kids and we really tried to help them by setting them straight. Like throughout this entire thing, they keep speaking an increasingly less coded language about how they tried to ungay this like group of friends.
monitor how her activities were with them, and it's a very tough balancing line with once they hit 12 to
Right. Well, the thing is, kids of that age, they're trying to. The task of a child that age really is to stop being a child and to start associating with their peers, right? And so part of the reason that teenage children are so susceptible to peer pressure is because their job at that age is to become socialized into the world of their peers, and that helps them make the
Yeah, because no one's yeah, Jordan, because no one socializes as a smaller child. No one cares about the esteem of their peers prior to 14 years old. Jordan, I implore you, and I mean this in the least creepy way possible. Like, I don't know, meet a 10-year-old girl anytime. Like, go to a 10-year-old girl's like tea party, okay? That shit is vicious. They'll tear you up. They'll eat you alive, Jordan.
transition from being a dependent child to an independent adult, right? You go from your parents to your friends with your parents in the background, and then hopefully you get through your friends in some ways so that you can become independent and then establish.
Well, as per Shoujo, the 15-mile walk through the winter snows will only build character. They don't want to rob that gay boy of the character building of walking 15 miles in the winter.
Establish your own family. So the susceptibility of teenagers to peer pressure is not only normative, but also in some ways desirable. But the problem is, of course, that it can go very sideways if the
Yeah, and Jordan Peterson knows a thing or two about peer pressure, okay? That's, you know, it's, I seem to distinctly recall him saying at one point in his life, you know, he'll delete a tweet over his dead body, and yet here he is, not dead, and back on Twitter.
the peer group is prone to the sorts of behaviors that won't lead them into a productive and enjoyable.
Oh God, no! I didn't say trust him around a child. I just said like Obviously, if you know Jordan Peterson's coming to your 10-year-old's tea party, you watch them like a hawk.
Adulthood. So yeah, so that's a rough situation. And you said you tried to monitor her social media use, but there's a limit to, well, there is a limit to how much you can do about that too, not partly because for all the dangers that are inherent to smartphones and technology, children still have to learn to master it. And so you can, it's not easy to figure out how to have your teenagers be expert in an electronic world without being exposed to all the catastrophes that come along with it. Okay, so now you said that, first of all, your church alerted you to the fact that she was toying with a male identity.
Correct.
So, and you thought did you see any changes in the way she was presenting herself that had?
She's always been a tomboy, never been, my husband owns a tech company, and so she's never been into girly things. She's always been into computers and robots and things like that. She's never been a girly girl.
I see. I see. And so she had, one of the biggest differences between men and women, masculine and feminine temperaments, let's say, is that men are more reliably interested in things and women are more reliably interested in people. But
What? Come on. I apologize to anyone in chat who's in a profession remotely associated with like psychiatry or psychology, because like, my god, this guy gives you guys a bad name.
she sounds like she had, at least to some degree, more male pattern interests, say. Now, that's not completely unheard of among women, obviously, either. So the mere fact that that occurs doesn't mean that you're born in the wrong body, let's say. But you said
No one would say that it is, Jordan.
she was smart and she's creative and she was interested in what exactly did you say?
Robots and electronics, and with my husband owning a computer company, her and a bunch, like, the techs all kind of raised their children together.
Oh, also, folks, we've been going for about 5.5 hours. Please hit the follow button on Twitch, hit the subscribe button on YouTube, like the goddamn YouTube stream, and please consider dropping some subs or donos. Because I'm kind of cute. Sometimes. Didn't he lose his license? Yeah. But honestly, not soon enough.
You know, they would take turns taking them to school and stuff. So there were about 3 or 4 little girls, and their interests were computers and what their dads were doing and taking apart the computer and learning about the computer.
Right.
So again, with her being super smart, even with us putting measures in place to try and limit her internet activity, super smart kid and would figure out a way around it. You know, so we're always trying to have to kind of get around that.
Right. Okay. So now you did sit down with her and you had a conversation about what you had heard at church. And what did she tell you?
She started crying. She was very, very upset and very emotional. And she said, you know, I don't know what to do. Nobody likes me. So she came back to nobody really likes me. I don't really have any friends. So maybe if I'm something different, this will help me. And
yeah. Well, I interviewed this woman, Chloe Cole.
I've heard of her.
Yeah. Well, Chloe is a detransitioner and now an activist, trying to stop the early surgical transition, mutilation, and sterilization of children. She had both her breasts removed when she was, I think she was 15, something absolutely awful. And she said to me, well, a couple of things that I thought were interesting. The first thing she said is when she was about 12 or 11 or 12, she realized or assumed that when she
Thanks, trans girl
did
Jade.
finish her journey through puberty, that she would have a rather boyish figure. And she had fantasized about being built like Kim Kardashian, you know, extremely curvy. And she thought that it's not going to go that way. And I won't make a very good woman. And so maybe I would make a better boy, which is, I suppose, something that's within the realm of fantasy for, you know, young women who are battling with the complexities of puberty. But nobody ever told her, none of the counselors she ever talked to, none of the psychologists, so-called, or the physicians never told her that that kind of discomfort with that bodily discomfort is very, very, very common, normative even among 12, 13-year-old girls, and that virtually everybody grows out of it. And that the suffering that goes, see, the other thing that happens to girls too when they hit puberty is their levels of negative emotion go up. And so that can also confuse them. And your daughter was additionally suffering from the fact, and this is a real problem, of her unpopularity, right? And so she's going to be casting around, looking for a way of being as a teenager that's going to pull her into the social group, right?
Yeah.
And so
I was just going to say, she's always wanted to be like the pretty, ultra popular girl. And I get it. I'm a girl too. Like, who doesn't?
Doesn't that, I feel like that directly contradicts what she just said. If on the one hand, like, no, like, only interest in boy things, male pattern interests, but also wants to be the pretty one? Question mark? But also these aren't necessarily mutually exclusive, so.
Want that when they're a kid. But instead, she's always been like the kid in math club, and the kid who goes to math competitions and wins, and the kid who, super, super smart. So she's always struggled with that.
We all know cancel culture threatens free speech. But do you think social media companies are innocent bystanders when they hide your channel from search results for expressing the...
Dude. Jordan Peterson can't even be bothered to read his own ads. Dude. Oh, that's actually really funny. Mr. Anderson, thank you for the 5 gifted memberships over on YouTube. Converting so many people over there to the Red Heart Army. Let's go. Love to see it. Also, boom. One more sub or dono, and you unlock your next tier.
Wrong opinion? That is censorship, plain and simple. Nobody should have the right to silence your voice. The good news is you can
Solidarity
fight back
forever,
by
Mr.
using our trusted
Anderson.
privacy
Thank you
partner,
so goddamn much.
ExpressVPN. The problem with big tech companies is that they censor what you see and track what you do online. They track review at
Oh my God.
by do. VPN.
probably do fine once
Protect your data.
That was a long ass ad.
Right, because then she's going to be able to find a niche where those skills and abilities, there'll be people around her.
So basically, they're trying to say that, like, their kid just claimed to be trans to become popular at school. This is, by the way, an insane thing to think. Like, you think that, like, coming out as trans in high school in a deeply conservative district is like a popular move? Are you kidding me?
Her that she'll be able to fit right in with, and it's also at that time later where that kind of intelligence and mathematical ability and interest is really going to pay off. But that's not necessarily the case in junior high school, for example. Okay, so you talk to her and she's upset, she's crying, and she's telling you that, she's pretty sick of being unpopular and so forth. And you take her to a counselor. Okay.
Yeah,
and
exactly,
so,
Crystal
or you
Hazer.
set her up with a counselor. And what sort of counselor was that? What were
It
her
was through our
qualifications?
church.
Yeah.
It was the director of the youth group who has some counseling credentials.
Chat, as somebody who has been in charge of children in like a ministry setting, I worked as a Bible camp counselor for 2 years. I would not recommend taking your child who's struggling with a lot of real world issues to your church youth counselor. They even if they have some credentials, they're not a professional. Their job is oriented completely differently to that of an actual mental health specialist.
And so we asked him if he would start meeting with her weekly before youth group and talking to her.
Okay, and what was the consequence of that?
Everything was really positive during that whole time, but what came out later, she said they put a gun to her head, which was again one of the crazy lies, and she meant it literally, so it was mixed.
What? Just gonna play that again.
During that whole time, but what came out later, she said they put a gun to her head, which was again one of the crazy lies, and she meant it literally, so it was mixed.
What? Can someone help me make sense of that? Because it sounds like she said, oh yeah, I went and met with the ministry youth leader and they put a gun to my head. One, in Montana, meaning that literally is probably not that far out of the norm. But two, even if it wasn't meant literally, why would you just initially assume that it was a literal thing that was meant literally? If I heard that term or phrase, I wouldn't assume that it was literal. I would assume like figurative, like, you know, you have to take this course of action or will ruin your life, you know? Yeah, exactly, Fought Night. Again, asking us to take these people's word on all of this is kind of insane. Especially considering they've lost custody of their child.
And so, but there was counselor with some.
Yeah, it is, I would say more than a little disturbing. It is deeply, like, one of the biggest possible red flags is when someone is just blanketly, like, referred to as a liar. You know, like, oh yeah, our child just lies all the time. Is either a lie or a product of the environment they grew up in. Children, I've worked with a lot of children over the years. Children don't just lie all the time. That's not like a behavior that just happens. Bella Rosethorn, thank you for popping your head in. Yeah, trans girl Jade is a good egg. Welcome.
Someone you trusted,
Yes.
and you
Absolutely.
don't believe that the counselor was someone who tilted her farther down this road.
Not at all.
No.
I don't think he did at all.
So you had the conversation with her, and then you thought things were essentially going okay. Was she still complaining at that time about not being popular at school? She was.
She was.
And what grade was she in?
Yeah, no, like the contempt with which they speak of their son is palpable. Like, they have contempt. They don't respect him. They keep saying like he lies all the time. And unless you have like some kind of diagnosis for your child that's like, oh, they're a pathological liar, something that is diagnosable in concrete, I'm not going to just believe you, especially right after you lost custody of your child. Like, they think, again, and I need to reiterate this, they were more worried about their child potentially transitioning while at an outpatient, at a clinic out of state, while getting treatment for their suicidality. They were more concerned that their child would trans himself than they were about him killing himself. And that's really fucking telling, isn't it?
In it at that point?
Seventh?
Yeah.
It started in
Grade
seventh
7.
grade,
That's a
yeah.
rough grade. So yeah, okay. So she sees the counselor for about how long?
About 6 or 8 months.
Okay,
Yeah.
and weekly.
Mm-hmm.
And did you see any changes in her behavior or anything like what were things like at home at that point?
That's what it was so hard to analyze because I drove her to school or to the bus, whichever she wanted, just a best friend relationship. I took her to school, picked her up. Her life was happy. If something did,
I mean, clearly that's not true since your trans son tried to kill himself. And clearly not a best friend situation since he had to flee your home because he couldn't talk to you about feeling trans stuff, trans feelings, because you were deathly afraid of that. This one might be hard for me to get all the way through, chat. Like, it brings up a lot of feelings about my own dad.
bad happened, she would let me know it, right? You know, she would let me know right away. And she was in a hurry to do her kid things, get on her electronics or go see her friends. And she had a summer job. Life
So
was
you
good.
felt that things were good, and you
good.
believed that the communication channels were open.
Yes.
And you're watching this. I mean, they have a very close relationship. You're watching this. What do you think of the relationship between these two?
You know what? They're very close. She's also very close to me because I'm the only mother figure she's ever known. So she actually calls me mom, even though I'm her stepmom.
Yeah.
Yeah, weird how it seems like they're very selective about what their trans son was lying about. You know, he lies all the time, but we were best friends and he would have told me anything. You know, I don't know, it's just not really adding up here.
And so we were very, very close with her and very open communication. Definitely.
Okay.
But again, you have to remember, we also have a child that has behavior problems and has some other attention-seeking behaviors and stuff like that. So even though we were close to her and monitoring her and keeping an eye on her, she still kind of has this other life over here where she, I don't want to say gets in trouble, but she makes up stories and she does things. Then it comes back to our life over here.
You know, it's also very telling that they're never specific about all of these lies their child is supposedly telling.
It's tricky too, because you know, you actually don't want your children in some ways to share absolutely everything with you when they're teenagers, right? Because they should be parceling off a part of their life that's private.
Yeah.
I don't mean hidden exactly or secret. That isn't what I mean, but because they're starting to mature, they should have their right to privacy and their right to explore in that private domain. I mean, one of the things we do know about the pathway of childhood development is there are some children who act out all the time, let's say, and they often stay in trouble and get in more trouble as they get older. And then there's children who never do anything wrong at all, and they also get in trouble as they get older. They're more likely to be dependent and depressed and anxious. And then there's the kids in the middle who, you know, will experiment and
are these two
and
agents
cause a
of the
certain amount
culture
of
war?
Trouble and trying to see where the limits
Oh no, they
are as
believe
teenagers.
they believe what they're talking
and so,
about.
And that does imply.
Yeah, like I know these are, I mean, at least that dad is my dad, you know, kind of situation. Like, no, they believe what they're saying. They've drank the Kool-Aid in a way that they are both agents of and victims of the culture war. They believe it. They just, you know, they just recontextualize the pain that they feel of effectively like being left behind by their trans kid. They just recontextualize that as like, this is just evidence of the of the world being evil and bad towards us beleaguered Christians, you know?
That they parse off a bit of a private life. But as far as you guys were concerned, after you had that initial conversation, while she was undergoing this counseling, things were no worse than they usually were, at least. And some of the signs were good. She had activities, she was going to school, she had a job, she had some interests, and she was still communicating with both of you.
That's correct.
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely.
Okay, and what about her siblings? What did they, were any of her siblings around at that time as well?
She's the last one in the house.
Yeah.
And so three of the older girls are kind of busy with their lives, and they call maybe once a week or so. And she hasn't spoken to her brother, who's been with the birth mom in probably 7 or 8 years. They just don't have phone contact.
Okay. So in some ways,
Why?
in your household, at
That's
this
deeply
time,
weird.
she was
Why
in the
would they
position of
not?
only child? There was
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
she's the only
okay.
child in the house.
Okay, so now, all right, so you're going along, and there's some problems, but they don't sound like they're completely out of the ordinary for, a 13-year-old girl with some trouble socializing. And so, what's the next event? And so, well, two things. What do you think's happening at school? Like, was your school a woke school? Was it a reasonable school? Was it still the case that you think that most of the exposure she had to this gender ideology was online? Did the school play a role in
The
this at
school
all?
played absolutely no role in that.
Yeah,
And
we
can't
live in a
think-
very, very small area. So I often tell people, if you Google middle of nowhere United States, that town that comes up, Glasgow, Montana, that's
Yeah.
where we live. And so they're not very woke out there at all. And so the school, if she had demanded to be called by other names or other pronouns, they would have shut it down immediately. They wouldn't have done that.
Okay, so this, as far as you're concerned, this was something that was mostly occurring as a consequence of of a particular peer group she was associating with,
Yeah.
and also information that she was obtaining online.
Mhm.
And you mentioned TikTok in particular. Was there a reason for that specific mention?
Yeah, because we had seen a couple of times where we were just blown away because life was perfect at home, relationship was perfect, and then we would see crazy.
Anyone who says this is lying. Everything was perfect at home. We'd wake up in the mornings and the bluebirds would fly in the open window and do our laundry for us while we all sang together in perfect chorus harmonies. No. Of course not. Of course this isn't true. God.
Crazy posts online or through email, and then some of the applications that she would go to on her computer.
And these were some of the things she was
Yes.
posting.
Mhm.
And what sort of things was she posting?
Well, one time for example, we were in Kalispell. She was in Glasgow, and she had posted she's in some kind of gang, and that her parents would beat her ass, was her words. And none of that. We were shocked when we saw that on her phone, and she said, "I don't know why I do this."
Where
I don't
was
know why
she
I do this."
posting
So that was
that?
another manifestation of those
Where was that
fantastic
kid posting
fantasies
it?
and lies.
Yes.
Essentially. Right. So she's toying with being a different person online. So that's one of the weird
Yeah.
things about the online world is because you can be and we don't know what this is doing to kids. You can be anything you want online, right? Because there's no one there watching you. And so any story you tell, you can get away with any story you tell, and you can also monitor the impact of that story, right? And if you're desperately seeking attention, then if you come up with a fantastical story that buys you a lot of sympathy, let's say, then that's an easy road to walk down. So, I've seen other teenage girls get in trouble in exactly this way. Do you know, this is a very personal question and you're not obliged to answer it. Do you know if she was posting, do you know if any of the interactions she had online had any sexual component? Was she posting photographs or anything like that?
I don't
No,
think so.
I've never seen anything like that. It was
Okay.
more the fantasy and the lies. Like, she would say that she had a twin brother that her birth mom killed, and that her birth mom was in prison. Just crazy things that have never happened, So it was more fantasy, but never really sexual.
Right. And you didn't have any sense that there was like specific predators after her online? Did she have had she gathered around her a community of people that were attending to what she was posting that might have involved some of these more predatory characters?
She did gather a group of people from the trans community that gathered around her and was telling her, how brave she is and
Right.
how great she is. So she did gather that crowd.
That's right.
Now, the
Yeah.
crowd where she was saying she was a gang and stuff, no, not
Right, but in this other domain she did. Well, that's a
Mhm.
very interesting form of reinforcement. Well, you see that in the culture at large, that there's this insistence that these brave people who come out with their true identity are heroes of a sort, right?
Yes.
And part of the problem with that is
Yeah, fuck all those trans people. Thinking they're heroic and shit for standing up for themselves and asserting their identity against waves of bigotry. You know, literally, like, knowing that it will cost them everything in their life, like, from their family to their friends to their job. Yeah, fuck those people. They're not brave. What are you talking about? You piece of shit. This is just the cartoon of the child being pushed away from by those close to them, finding space in the group they were pushed towards. The original group going, "You did this?" Yeah. This is the meme of, like, Eric Andre shooting the guy in the chair and then looking at the screen going, "Who would do this?" God.
that, well, there are confused people who struggle their whole life to come out from what they're hiding behind to reveal who they are, let's say. But there's plenty of people who are narcissistic as can possibly be imagined, who use that as a means of obtaining like a false status. And that's certainly, I would say, something that the Biden administration has been particularly complicit in producing. And so if your daughter is unsure of herself, and if she's unpopular,
yes, the Biden
and she finds a
administration.
group of people who are congratulating her on her
It was the Biden administration that personally congratulated your trans son. Joe Biden personally called him and was like, "Hello, sir. I'm about to deliver your first dose of HRT, presidential style." And then, like, a stealth bomber goes overhead and drops a pinpoint precision hypodermic needle bomb full of testosterone directly into his jugular. Okay, that's exactly how it goes.
bravery every time she takes a step in the direction of this revelation of identity. You know, Cleo told me that after
Yeah, because, you know, nothing would ever reinforce someone being cisgender. No one would ever congratulate or provide any kind of, like, positive reinforcement for being cisgender. Nope. No, sir. That's never happened, not even once, baby.
a while too, and I know another girl who is in this situation too, is, you know, after
The real
a while,
gender's good and
after you
evil.
adopt a new identity like that, say as a boy, and you gather a bit of a community around you, it's pretty damn hard to step backwards, right? Because you
I can
feel like you're
imagine.
absolutely, you feel like you're the one girl I'm speaking of, like, she decided that she was a boy, and then some of her friends afterward, as a consequence of her influence, felt they were boys. And then when she decided maybe she wasn't a boy and that was a bad idea, one of the things that she found very difficult was stepping backwards, because now she felt guilty that she had enticed other people down this road, right? So you start to produce these false identities, and they take on a life of their own, like any lie does,
Right.
right? And then if
Yes, it's
magnified
all
by people,
lies.
in some ways, the people online are doing exactly the same thing, because they've taken dire steps in the wrong direction and are likely to encourage that in other people.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. So, but all things considered, you two weren't unduly concerned. You had some concerns about her popularity and about her storytelling. That the teachers, are they reporting any particularly unacceptable behavior at school during this time?
Yes, in that this wasn't a daily problem. Once every month to sometimes 2 months, something would happen. We'd hear her version of it. So we would right away, because we're concerned parents. We interacted, and the schools there are just very good at interacting with parents. They're not woke. They're not all that. And but they would say, our daughter's version of that was not accurate. She actually instigated it, or she caused the confrontation, even though what the other kids did was they're in trouble. They're in trouble.
Yeah.
But if she's got a part to play in this too.
Right.
It's almost like how can I put this? Like if I keep poking
Yeah,
at Todd
yeah, yeah,
and then he
yeah.
snaps at me and then I'm like, oh my gosh, look what you did. It was like that type of behavior, that kind of
Yeah.
attention seeking, victimizing.
Provocativeness.
Yeah.
However,
Yeah.
But we loved our child so very much. We loved our child so very much. How could he ever want to leave? That attention-seeking bastard. Like, what, the emotional whiplash I'm getting listening to them talk about their kid is, I think, a very good indicator of why he left. He just said they left another school because the school was blaming the kid for bullying. Why couldn't this school be the same way? Two schools would never cover their asses the same way.
There was always a sense, though, and it's what you said earlier. There's always a sense that this is going to be a short little battle because her brain's going to develop and she's going to become a very smart girl. And I had no doubt this is going to be a very successful young adult. You know, I never thought, so there was never a sense of there wasn't such a strong, I want to be trans, or there was none of that really going on.
No, that trans
that would have
shit.
led to
So
us
you had
worrying.
confidence in her long-term outcome, even.
Absolutely.
And
Because
why absolutely? Why were you so certain of that?
because if just given more time to grow up, you know, because kids hit an awkward age.
Yeah.
She had a lot of attention when she was a kid. She was in our stores. Customers would bring her stuffed animals, and she's in a IT corporation, and people treat her like gold. And she grows up, and all of a sudden she's at an awkward age, glasses, braces, and all of that.
Okay.
And with the wrong kids, but eventually there'd be good kids, and becoming an adult, the brain develops, and they settle into whatever gender they really are. And
Right. So you guys were still thinking
into whatever gender they really are. You mean like how your child could settle into the gender of being a man, the way he really is, and you'd be totally fine with it, right? It's not like you would say deny him life-saving treatment rather than the affirmation of going to like a, I don't know, like a place where he can socially transition or even get HRT or something like that. Oh, wait, you literally wanted to deny him life-saving anti-suicide treatment because it might be in a place that might allow him to medically transition. Oh, I guess you don't really care about people being, you know, the gender they are. All right.
that this was just,
Yeah.
you were prepared to wait.
Oh, also, folks. Hi. We've now been going for 6 hours. If you've been enjoying the stream, please hit the follow button on Twitch. Please hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Hit the like button on the YouTube stream. And please consider dropping some subs or donos. I really thought this every 10 subs you unlock something thing would be interesting for you guys, but I appear to have miscalculated today. I apologize. Anyway, consider dropping those subs and donos because this show is brought to you by viewers like you. Thank you. And with that, here we go. Beep beep boop boop. Is it more toilet? It is. Why would it be what more toilet implies that there was some level of toilet in the past?
It out. You'd had lots of children.
Yes,
You'd gone through this with many kids already.
Morgan Drewy, thank you for the
$1.99.
$1.99. Let's
when it was
go. Thank you
confused,
very
but
much.
became an adult and wasn't. Said, boy, I can't believe I thought that way when I was younger. Good thing I didn't make bad decisions. You know,
Yes,
those,
well, it's not uncommon, and you could imagine too, like you've characterized your daughter as somewhat of a tomboy,
yeah.
and I think that to some degree was confusing for tomboys forever.
Mhm.
But they weren't also ever offered the opportunity of presuming that just because they had some aspects of their character that were more masculine, that that meant was they had to surgically bring themselves into alignment with that.
Exactly.
Right, which is
yeah.
very
Hell yeah. All right. And you've unlocked my super special outfit that I will go and wear right now. I'll be right back. Boop. There we go. BRB. There we go. Hair down. As it was always meant to be. Back to this terrible clusterfuck.
very, very, very bad idea. Okay, so all right, so you're going along with this situation, and you have some concerns, but you believe they'll reconcile themselves in the long run. And then when do things break?
I'll let you tell most. We were coming back from Billings, Montana from a medical appointment, and the location that our daughter
No worries,
worked had called
Archangel.
us, asked if our son could come into work, and it all took off from there. And there was nothing in the middle. There was just for over a year, just nothing, but a good kid, great relationship.
There were no signs whatsoever, except for that time our child came to us and was like, "Mom, Dad, I'm trans," and then we didn't affirm them.
Complete trust, and all of a sudden we find out that she had created this world where she works, where she's known as a boy, and it all
And that was
imploded.
Leo.
And we made a decision. We thought, okay, we don't want to say nothing, and I was bummed out. I was very depressed about it. We don't want to say nothing. We don't want to ruin, because school's getting ready to start. I wanted everything.
I was so bummed and depressed that my child trusted me enough to come forward to me and tell me what they were going through, and instead of like empathizing and trying to help them, instead I felt bad about myself because it's really about me.
On a positive note, but yet she had been lying to us and lying about this about her.
Sorry, Crystal
And
Hazer.
she had been working there a year?
No, she'd been there only a few months.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay, okay, a couple of months. And what was she doing? What was the job?
It was at a local restaurant, just a little local dive restaurant.
Right, so she had gone there as a boy.
They all knew that she was female. But
Okay.
she went there and she presented this image that she's transgender and that they needed to buy into this and call her by a different pronoun and stuff. And they were all kind of like, I don't really know what to do with this. So they just played along with it.
That is
Are
typically
you tired
how
of feeling sluggish, run down, or just not your best self? Take control of your health and
I don't want health advice from a guy who had to go into a Russian coma for a year. Typically when you introduce yourself in like a new setting, it's not really like a thing people find themselves not understanding and like needing to like acclimate towards. They're just like, oh, you want to be called Tim instead of Timothy? Got it. And like that's the end of the discussion. Like it's not like a whole thing. But apparently these people think it's a whole thing.
vitality with Balance of Nature. Balance of Nature fruits and veggies are a great way to
Rampe,
make sure you're
you're
getting
welcome.
essential nutritional ingredients every single day. They use an advanced cold vacuum process that encapsulates fruits and vegetables into whole food supplements.
Please, for the love of God.
Oh,
I see. So she started to, now is it accurate to say that she started to take the persona that she was playing with online and now start to see
yes.
what would happen if she was playing this out in the world?
Yes, in the
Yeah,
world.
she was
And
just
so she built
she was
this
just
little
playing
thing
with
at
it.
her
Wasn't
job.
actually trans.
And again,
Uh-huh.
that she was a boy and, going by Leo and stuff. So it all came to a head on August 18th.
Yeah.
The next week, school was starting, and she was going to be a ninth grader in high school. And because of all of her past history with struggling in school, we said, hey, why don't we take a break from the summer job and go ahead and start high school, see where we can go with high school. And if at Christmas break you're doing great, which you always do great, and things are under control and you're not feeling too anxious or too bullied.
Wait, your 13-year-old had a summer school job? What the hell was your 13-year-old doing for work? What?
Or anything, go back to your summer job. Maybe you can start working one day a week during, like maybe one day a weekend on the winter hours.
Mhm.
And she obviously didn't want to do that. We also had talked to her about, hey, they called and they said our son needed to come to work today. And what's going on with that? Or why are you doing this again? Do we need to have a conversation about that? And she was just mad. She was a mad teenager that day.
Well, your son was probably pretty upset about the fact that, like, work outed him to you guys, and now he had to deal with all of your bullshit in addition to, like, I don't know, continuing to be a functional person. Like, I don't know, that's kind of a lot of bullshit to deal with as a 13 and 14-year-old.
Okay, so so you guys, you found out what she was doing at work and you suggested to her that she stop the job temporarily.
Mm-hmm.
And if things went well, she could pick it up again in the winter, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and which part of that do you think made her angry? Well, you also called her out on the fact that she had been presenting herself as a boy at the job. So what do you think it was that made her angry? Did she really like the job? Did she feel you were interfering? No, it wasn't that. What do you think it was?
I think it was the fact that we called her out, and this personality and this fantasy that she began living, she was now going to have to stop living.
Good way to put that. I think it was that she had a little world within the world where she could be what she wanted to be at that time, and that was being imploded on her.
Yeah, except that you could have supported your child regardless of what gender they identified as. And if they wind up being a trans man, cool. Glad they're growing up happy and healthy. They grow up to be a trans, non-binary person. Good. Glad they're growing up, happy and healthy. They wind up being like a cis girl. Good. Glad. Happy they're growing up healthy. But either way, it's their identity. They gotta figure that out for themselves. You can't tell them no on that one. That's not how identities work.
Right.
And instead, she also did not want to start high school. And there were some instances prior to school, and this is just days before school starts, where some of the kids were already being mean, So
That's true. We took her to high school orientation, and some of the kids were already at high school orientation being mean to her.
I see. And how do you think she was doing at her job in her new identity? I mean, people were playing along with that. Was she being bullied at work? No.
No, she did have a couple incidents where some people had said things to her at work and she came home upset. So not necessarily getting bullied, but there were people that were like, you're not a boy. We're not playing along with this. And that's not how, when she came home and was upset, that's not what she'd say to us. She'd say, oh, the customers were really mean today, and things like that.
Right.
But in hindsight and kind of putting it together with her boss now, that's what was going on, is people were like, you're not a boy. What is wrong with you? Why are you acting this way? And she would be very, very upset by the time she got home.
Okay, so she's heading back to school and she's going into high school. So that's a big transition. And it looks like there's going to be some continuation of the same trouble. And she's not particularly happy about having had her new fantasy life at work exposed.
And probably also not super happy about being bullied both at home and at school. That seems like something that would be really, really difficult to deal with. Like, I can't even imagine. Like, I don't know. There wasn't like a ton of like bullying when I was in school. Like, at least when I got to high school, there wasn't like a ton of bullying that I was aware of. But like, it would have been really hard for me to deal with bullying on top of like all of the social pressures and demands of high school, on top of being trans, on top of being in a non-supportive household. Like, that's enough to break almost anybody.
Now, is there anything else going on at the time what else is happening?
She just a strange problems. She started having really, really bad headaches. And she started having vision problems. And we had full medical insurance. We took her in for everything. We're having her eyes constantly checked. She was going through hair loss. She was wanting to wear ball caps all the time. She was having almost like we don't know if they're hallucinations or what you would call it, but there was a combination of those things happening steadily and just terrible headaches. And so that was a concern that we were having. It was adding to the other, behavioral things. And they seem to go in line with that almost.
So in hindsight, we found out that one of her friends, who was another 14-year-old girl, was ordering her hormones off of Amazon and having them sent to her.
Yeah, I don't think if they're ordering HRT online, I don't think that it's that I don't think that's just like a passing fantasy or a phase.
Her house, not ours, and then giving those to our daughter Jennifer.
And what were the hormones and how were those purchasable on Amazon? Do you know?
They are purchasable on Amazon, and you don't have to prove that you're 18 or anything. You can just go in and buy them. And they were female to male hormones.
Okay, I'm gonna call bullshit on this one. As far as I know, you can't just order testosterone off of Amazon. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm pretty sure testosterone is something you need like an actual prescription for. Like, you can get like bodybuilder like GNC protein powders or whatever, but like that's not testosterone. It's not a replacement for testosterone. Yeah, testosterone is literally a controlled substance.
I could look it up and send it to you, the exact ones, if you want. But
please do.
So we found out that after all this happened, that's what was going on at the time, because we couldn't figure it out. I took her to the eye doctor 3 times, and I was like, something must be wrong with her glasses. You must be wrong. She's having these headaches. And they were like, no, we can't find.
And was the hair loss noticeable?
Amazon does not sell hormones.
Every one of the things that we said was listed as a side effect, and that's if you're taking the right dosage and you're a teenager. And most likely, when kids are prescribing drugs to kids, what's the odds of them following the prescription if they're in a hurry to try to become something else?
So that's what we are afraid of.
Jesus, that's.
What you were really afraid of was your child taking, hormones prescribed to them by another child. That's what you were worried about. Well, then there's a really easy solution to that. It's called taking them to a doctor to get prescribed HRT. And then you can, as the parent, oversee their ingestion of like this controlled substance and make sure that they're safe. You could make sure that they're safe by supporting their choices instead of forcing them to go behind your back.
It's brutal. Yeah, because first of all, I had no idea that was such an easy thing to do. And
it's not.
Second, you just have absolutely no idea what that might do to her mental health or physical health, generally speaking.
Right. And looking back, I could see things like she was acting like more aggressive, like really
Yeah.
quick to anger.
Yes.
You know, her skin, her complexion just went terrible. Like, and I took her to the doctor. I was ordering her Proactive, you know, all these things online, just like, what is going on with this kid's acne? Like, this is not normal for her. So in hindsight, I know it was now those hormones that she had taken herself.
Right. Right.
We didn't find this out until after CPS had taken her away.
Okay. So now she's off to high school. So continue the story. What
so
happens?
on August 18th, what had happened is we had the discussion with her about stopping the job and starting high school and starting fresh. And she was very angry with us and very upset with us that day. But even though she was angry, she was coming in and out of the room with us. You know, she'd talk to us and stuff, but then she'd be snippy, you know, and go back to her room. Typical teenager behavior. So it wasn't alarming.
No, that's not typical teenager behavior. That's just you treating your teenage son with a ton of disrespect.
So I got a call at exactly 1:48 from our local police department saying that our daughter had made text message comments to another child that she wanted to kill herself and that this was her intention. So I stayed on the phone with the police officer. I walked down the hallway to where she was, and
Who reported that?
I'm sorry.
Who
What?
reported the text messages?
The other child that she made these
The
comments
child
to.
reported it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the child did that of her own accord?
What?
Or was that a plan? Or were their parents involved? Because
I
that's
think
that's very odd.
She only met the child one time.
It's very odd that a child not knowing what to do would like tell their parent that their friend wanted to kill themselves and their parent would call the police. Or would have the wherewithal at like 14 to know that they should like call the police if somebody's trying to kill themselves. What are you talking about? That isn't odd at all. At all.
At a track meet like 7 or 8 months prior.
But she had spun this whole thing with this other little girl that she had terminal cancer and that Todd and I weren't letting
What?
her get treatments. So yes,
I see.
I
So
do.
this was part and parcel of a whole story.
Yeah, so I do
What?
think that the
I
child
see.
reported it because I think the child was
Okay.
like, she's being terribly abused by
Oh
these
yeah.
awful people.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Wait, how is that your takeaway? Wait, how is that your takeaway from this story? In your story, you're talking about how your child told this other child that he wanted to kill himself and was going to kill himself. And then that other child called the police. That's not an indictment on you. That's the police calling to tell you, hey, check on your kid. They've said they're going to try and kill themselves. Like, spinning like this as, oh, woe is us. Won't somebody think of us? Yeah, this was a coordinated plan between our son and this other child who he only met one time. And this was a coordinated plan to make us look like bad parents. The police were calling you to tell you that your child was suicidal and might be trying to kill themselves as you speak. My God. What are the chances he was just taking creatine? I mean, given the fact that like he was able to order it off of Amazon, I'm guessing it's probably like creatine or like some other similar muscle thing that like weightlifters take. This is a level of like self-centeredness that is incredible to me. You know, I get a call from the police telling me that my child is planning on killing themselves. I don't go, yes, this is part of a massive conspiracy to make us look like evil parents. No, I fucking like throw the phone down and go and run and check on my kid. What are you doing?
Yeah, so the police officer, like I said, he called. I went down the hallway and I talked to Jennifer, and she was in her room, but the door was open, and I was like, "Hey, what's going on? The cops are on the phone. Like, what is
No,
this about?"
I've seen other girls spin fantasies like that online and make false reports to other people of abuse in the household, and the social services teams
You've seen other girls. Jordan Peterson is a girl confirmed.
come rampaging in like mad, right? And
Yes.
often the girls who have spun the
The
fantasies,
girlies.
well, they're taken completely aback by the consequences
Ah, yes, women. Liars, Adam and Eve, all that.
of their actions. But, that's another indication of that bit of tendency towards histrionic behavior, right? Dramatic
Oh
and
my God.
histrionic behavior that can produce these
Fuck
sorts
this
of
guy.
cascading consequences. Okay, so this was reported to the police.
Right. And so I
Okay.
stayed on the phone with the officer, and I
Yeah.
spoke to our daughter. And I told the police officer, I'm like, I don't think, I think she's just angry at us. She's having a day, and this is something that she's doing to act up and act out for attention.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not concerned. If I am concerned, I'll certainly call you back. I'll call an ambulance.
So I need to. So Jordan Peterson is sitting here, like, just nodding along. Oh, you poor dears. You poor dears. How, oh my God. How could you put up with this histrionic behavior? Look, this is why I talk about how weird it is that Jordan Peterson's obsessed with Carl Jung. Because Jungian psychoanalysis has been, like, outdated for, like, over a century. Like if you talked about, like, how women were just being hysterical in, like, the 1980s, you would have been laughed out of, like, the psychological profession, Meanwhile, Jordan Peterson's just nodding along. Yes, you see, the moon has changed the tides with their uteruses and made them go all bonkers. That is my professional diagnosis. And that's not a thing. And also, this mom is saying, like, oh, well, when the police told us our kid is suicidal, I just said, haha, no, he's not. This is just a ploy for attention. Good day, police officer. That's insane. That is an insane and frankly evil and criminally negligent response. Like, if somebody tells you your kid is suicidal and your response is, oh, no, they're just doing it for attention, you're crazy. You are a bad parent. You are a bad parent. There's no getting around that. These are people who care more about the aesthetic and social perception of themselves as parents more than they care about the actual kids that they have.
I'll do whatever I have to do to make sure that she's safe, And so that was at about 1:48. And then at 7:40 that night is when Children's Services showed up at our house, because they said the police officer could not lay eyes on the child or speak to the child directly, even though he didn't ask. He didn't come over. He didn't ask to see her. He didn't ask for me to hand her the phone. None of that happened. So at this point,
So how many people from Child Services showed
just
up?
one lady.
Just one lady.
And so at this point, we're like, okay, well, this has never happened before, and this is weird. And you're really taken aback when Children's Services,
Yeah.
Now you're
like,
in trouble.
Yeah, you're like, what did I do?
Oh,
What's
yeah.
going on around here? So
Yeah.
we were very transparent, because our attitude was, being transparent, we have nothing to hide. So why not let them look at whatever they want to look
And yet you're very dedicated to not being transparent. Da-dun.
at, and then they can go about their day and go on their way. So we gave her a tour of the house. We showed her.
What do you think you should have done?
Now in hindsight, I think we should have said, no, this isn't, get out of here. Like, you can lay eyes on the child if you want, but you're not coming to our house. You're not getting into our lives. There's no reason.
They want to check and make sure that child hasn't tried to kill themselves, lady.
for you to be here. Like we should have
Yeah.
stood strong in the fact that
Yeah, it's tough, because the natural
Oh my
proclivity,
god.
if everything is okay, is to do exactly what you did, to cooperate and to believe that your cooperation will produce the best possible positive result. My suspicions are now that for everybody watching and listening, if child services shows up at your doorstep, it's time to get a lawyer, like
It is.
right
It
now,
is.
before you
Absolutely.
talk to them, before you do anything with them. Not to
Absolutely.
presume axiomatically that they are on your side or that things are going to go well. In fact,
Right.
I would say quite the contrary.
And that was where we at. We thought,
Yeah.
oh, well, they're going to be on our side. They're going
Yeah.
to see that we're dealing with a child who has some problems that we're addressing, and then they're going to go about their day, and that's not what happened. So,
Okay, so you're showing this person around your house.
we showed
And
her
what
around
sort
the
of
house.
what's the interaction like with the person?
It was friendly.
She was friendly. She was nice. I mean,
Yeah.
Our home is very stocked, very nice home. Our
it's-
daughter
well, it's
spoiled
well
rotten for
stocked, so,
technology in
you
her
know.
room. The report was that she had taken 30 ibuprofen and drank.
well,
toilet
we haven't
milk.
gotten there yet. So what?
Oh, so it turns out that your trans son wasn't actually posturing about killing himself for attention and actually did try to kill himself. Not for attention, but to get away from you guys. My god.
happened then, she said she had to talk to Jennifer alone.
Yeah.
And we were, at that point, we were like, wow, this is getting
Alone,
really, yeah.
Yeah.
But we said, okay, you can talk to her alone. And they went out on the porch. They spoke for about 10 minutes. And then Todd and I went out on the porch because we're like, we're just not comfortable with
Yeah,
this.
right.
This is going in a weird way. We're not okay with this. And at that point, that's when Jennifer had told the CPS worker that she had taken 30 ibuprofen earlier in the day at about 3 o'clock, as well as she drank toilet bowl cleaner in an effort to end her life. And we're like, we know that this didn't happen because
Oh yeah, we're in brain rot. This is brain rot territory. If you guys happen to get like 9 more subs and their dono equivalents through, we might do non-brain rot, but this is brain rot right now.
she has no signs of chemical burns. You know, she's not lethargic. She's not sick. And plus, I had been in the kitchen that day with my laptop at the table working where the ibuprofen and stuff were. And I know she hadn't taken any. You know, she hadn't had any squirreled away. I knew she hadn't done it. But we were like, we know that she tells stories and this is not true, but we're going to go to the hospital and have her checked because we're going to be safe as you could possibly be. And then that's where all the problems really, really started.
Okay,
when we got to the
well,
hospital.
continue. Tell me what happened.
So we get to the hospital that
You
night.
take her. Does the social worker come along with you at this
She
point?
does, yes.
Okay, so all of you are going to the hospital.
So we transport our daughter with us, and the social
What
worker takes her own
what sort of mood is your daughter in at that moment?
Nobody spoke. We weren't really speaking. We're really blown away by everything that just happened because we just had friends over and our daughter was having a really good time. She had a new puppy too that day. So she was really happy. And
Clearly
so we
not
were really
that
caught
happy.
off guard by the whole thing. And the way there, it was very quiet. We were just in a hurry to get there. And the whole time just wondering where all this came from so quickly. You know, how did we go from 0 to CPS at our house and now we're on the way to the hospital?
But we,
Right.
and we
So
did,
now you also don't know, like this fantasy that came out about the ibuprofen and the toilet bowl cleaner. So you have no idea how far she's taken.
Yes, clearly
Off
such a
topic,
fantasy.
But have you heard of the linear visual novel analog story told through the style of a VHS tape nature?
Oh god.
Off topic, but have you heard of the linear visual novel analog story told through the style of a VHS tape nature documentary called South Scrimshaw? It has some really cool unique world building.
I have not, but I will check that out right now. Oh, it looks like it's a 2-parter. That's cool. Adding that to my library. It's also free. Neat. Looks spooky. Maybe we'll play it on stream sometime. Spoops for the Spoop God. South Scrimshaw Part 2. Oh, it's the Part 2 is an early access game. And it's not out yet. That's pretty cool, though. Putting that on my wish list. It's all about cool fictional whales. I like that. Thank you for the $15 dono. Hell yeah. That brings us down to 6 subs away for a new thing. Donos for the dono dogs. Spoops for the spoop throne. Donos for the dono dogs. Oh yeah, no, Kelsey Soloway, I do not believe these parents as far as I can throw them, you know, like, my God.
Multiple fantasies in her imagination, right? And how, because this is what happens to people who wander off track, you know, is they start dwelling on fantasies and spend hours on them or hundreds of hours on them and develop a very elaborated alternative world or multiple alternative worlds. And so God only knows where the story of the ibuprofen and the toilet bowl cleaner came out, you know, because you made reference earlier to the fact that she had shared some fantasies online with her online crowd, right? About having a twin brother. And like, you just have no idea how much of that dreamlike world she's allowing to occupy her imagination. Right. Because isn't it surprising, eh? Because you say, well, you were having a perfectly, as far as you could tell, a perfectly normal day, a happy day even. She got a new puppy. And yet as soon as she talks to the social worker, there's this immediate fantasy of 40 ibuprofen and toilet. I mean, that's a dramatic fantasy, right? I mean, killing yourself is one thing, but killing yourself with ibuprofen and toilet bowl cleaner, that's pretty bloody brutal.
Starting a business can be tough, especially knowing how to run your online storefront. Thanks to Shopify, it's easier than ever. Shopify.
I'm muted. This is what I get for only selectively seeing comments like "tell us more." I was trying to, and then yes. Well, you know, you talk for 7 hours straight, and sometimes you're just doing the best you can. All right. Anyway, pretend I said things that were very clever and insightful.
Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you weed the shucks and converting no matter next level EP.
Okay, so you're on the way to the hospital. You don't know what's going on. The social worker is with you. What happens when you get to the hospital?
So we get to the hospital and they right away hook her up, EKGs, blood work, you know, the whole gambit, and we're totally fine with that. And right away she says, I'm transgender and my parents don't accept me, and everyone here needs to call me Leo.
Okay.
And the whole room was just kind of like crickets. Like no one really said anything. And so Todd and I stepped up and we said, you know,
this is how someone who, like, the whole room was like crickets. No, they work in healthcare. Okay? They see transgender patients. Why are you wearing a collar? Why aren't you wearing a collar? Boom. Nailed it.
she's done this in the past. We're not okay
So
with
she picked
this.
the worst possible.
Oh, a daughter's done this in the past. We're not okay with it. Well, that's too bad. The hospital has policies. That's too bad.
Moment to announce
We got
that.
you, Leo.
Yes, so-
Right, especially to announce the fact that you guys don't accept her.
Mhm.
Right, so now she's really playing with fire.
Yeah.
Like seriously playing with fire.
And so
What
our
fire?
reaction was, you know, she's done this before.
Yeah.
We're not okay with it. You need to address her by her birth name and, you know, her regular pronouns.
And that's what you told the people at the hospital.
That's what we told them right off the bat. We
Yeah.
said, we're not okay with this. You need to just not call her Leo. Her name is, you know, Jennifer. We'd like you to call her Jennifer. That's her birth name. And we all need to get
Their
her
priority
treated and
is the
move on with what
patient,
needs
not
to be done
you.
now, was our attitude. And so
And how many people are you telling this to?
the whole emergency room crew, there were probably 5 people in the room, plus the social
And-
You know, this is interesting that your child was taken to the emergency room after you said that there was absolutely no truth to you know, your kid's story. Why would they take him to the emergency room if there was no truth whatsoever to his story? Sounds kind of like there is truth to his story and you're just kind of being a liar, I guess.
Now,
plus
do
us.
you know, did you know then, or do you know in retrospect, how many of them, so to speak, were on your side and how many of them were on your daughter's side?
Oh my
Because,
God.
you know, increasingly in institutions, if a child goes into an institution and makes a claim like that, the hospitals, many hospitals now and many organizations are tilted even formally so that they're required to take the side of the child.
correct. And
Right.
that is what happened.
That is
Yeah.
what happened.
That is what happened.
She's,
Well, no, they're required to take the side of the patient. The patient. I don't know if they know this, but healthcare facilities prioritize patients, not guests.
So we were at the hospital for 5 days. After,
5 days.
Yeah.
5
So we
days.
knew they said the 3-day hold, when someone tries to commit suicide or says they're going to, then they automatically go on a 3-day hold. And we understood that. And we were like, okay. So the whole time I'm going to the hospital for 5-6 hours a day because her birth mother abandoned her. And even I'm her primary mother figure now. And I don't want her to feel like just because you're acting up and you're being bad,
He's your son. He's not acting up and being bad. He's your son. Just acknowledge him as your son, and he'll do a lot better. Also, the birth mother involved here has another one of your husband's kids. The idea that there's abandoned you know, for to live in Canada with your brother. What? Usually if someone's going to abandon their kids, they're not going to just abandon one of their kids.
we're going to abandon you. That's not how life works. You know, yeah, I'm not happy I have to sit down here all day long, but this is the way that life is and family is. So I'm down there every day for 5-6 hours a day. And at this point, the hospital crew totally turns against me. So they start calling her Leo.
Yeah, 'cause you're-
And when I say, hey, that's not her name, I want you to call her by birth name, you know, I'm getting a lot of rolling their eyes and sighing.
Yeah, that's not good.
What's
That's the
totally
best.
Oh yeah, you know, your trans son was just, you know, just charmed them all to live in his fantasy world. You know, that's so awful of him. Real Kavorka like situation. Come on.
Best predictor of divorce in married couples who are seeking counseling. Eye
Really?
rolling. Yeah, well, it's a sign of contempt. It's
Oh.
not good. It's not good. So if that's the sort of response you were getting, that was definitely indicative of the fact that you were now put in the unacceptable mother camp.
Absolutely. And so, right. And then, so
Well, yeah, because you were showing up and demanding that hospital workers like contradict standards of care. Yeah.
almost right away, there
This
was,
is like showing up, by the way, and saying like, don't you give that patient an IV? How dare you take blood pressure readings? How much to make this stop? Currently you guys are about 10 subs away. Or not 10. Sorry. You guys are about 6 subs / donos away from making this stop. Preferably over on riverboat.gg, the on-screen chat, the fresh maker.
one aide that sat outside her door because now she's on 24-hour supervision. So she's in a door, and the aide sits about like right there in that doorway away from her just to watch her. So
Right. So she's getting a lot of attention.
a lot
So
of
our
attention.
daughter's
Oh,
in the
so
middle.
much
Right.
attention.
And then I'm kind of on the other side of the room there. So right away, the aide starts saying things to her about how this particular aide herself is non-binary and is going to
Oh,
go
yeah.
have top surgery. And
Oh boy.
I'm like, hey, you know what? You need to shut this down. Like, this is not okay. So
Okay, so now you're also not okay with employees at the hospital talking about their day-to-day lives? God damn.
I stayed calm because I felt like they were trying to bait me into a fight, and then they could look and turn around and say, look at
Yeah,
how
that's a
Yeah, okay. So you think that, like, a trans person at the hospital talking about how everything's gonna be okay, and also, like, I'm also trans, that's you think that they're trying to pick a fight with you. Hey, Glitterbell, good morning. This is delusion.
a typical tactic, absolutely typical
Yeah,
tactic. It's
so-
part of that provocativeness is right to poke and poke and poke and poke and poke and poke and wait for an explosion and then to say, well, I knew that you were the sort of person who would explode.
Right.
yeah,
And I felt like
definitely.
that's what was happening to us. So Todd and I stayed very calm. And then you lose when you stay too calm because then they're like, well, now you're too calm. I'm like,
No, well,
but-
the whole point of people who are manipulative like that, the whole game is to
Yes. Chat, is it manipulative when you just talk about your day-to-day life and experiences?
put you in a position where no matter what you do, you're wrong and they're right. You're wrong and bad, and they're right and good. That's the game, right? And so, and what it costs you, that's irrelevant. It's completely irrelevant. In fact, there's more and more studies of people who behave in this way because you get a kind of narcissistic manipulativeness, but that slides very rapidly into sadism. And so not only do they want to be right and good at your expense, but if you suffer as a consequence, so much the better. Right.
What?
So, and if your daughter happens to have to be dragged along for the ride, well, they're proving their moral
okay with that,
superiority.
yeah.
No,
What?
they're more than okay with that. That's just part of the fun. So, oh yeah.
What
All
are you
right,
guys
so now
talking
just
about?
5 days in the hospital. Your daughter's getting a lot of attention. They put an aide in there who's going to be extraordinarily attentive to all of her whims. Right.
Correct.
There's one thing that's really important here too during this.
God, the persecution complex on these people is insane. Yeah, that employee at the hospital was talking about how they're trans just to gouge their thumb in your eye. Like, what are you talking about?
To me, it's the biggest thing is that right immediately, I've never heard our daughter ever talk about another state before, and there was talk about Wyoming, and then they said there are different facilities that she could be sent to. Almost all of them.
Yeah, your son was talking about Wyoming because that was a place where they had treatment options for people who are suicidal.
Are in Montana, but there's one in Wyoming. But there was almost an unspoken language going on between our daughter
And what are
the
these
nurse.
facilities that she's going to be sent to?
They-
And why
they
does that
said
emerge
she-
as a discussion?
They said she needed acute psychiatric care because of the statement she was making about killing herself. And we were like, okay. And they said it would be inpatient. So
Oh, God.
we're saying, okay, like if this is what needs to happen to help her, okay, let's get this done. So we were told there were 6 facilities in the state of Montana. And like Todd said, that one, they started talking about Wyoming kind of off to the side. And it was kind of like a
Casper.
secret language, if that
Yeah,
makes
yeah,
sense, between
yeah.
our
like
daughter.
an in-joke.
Well, they said
Yeah.
it like this.
How are you being conspiratorial about your son being sent for psychiatric evaluation and treatment in a nearby facility that is across state lines? Like, yeah, you might need to do that to go see like a very good specialist in order to get help in a specific field. The reason you disagree with this is because you refuse to acknowledge that your child wanted to die.
Is because right away while they're talking, I was just listening and I went right to my phone and good old Google. Went to Google, what's different about Wyoming? And they show the map of Idaho.
Oh my god. So instead of believing that your child wanted to kill himself, you went on Google and came up with a convoluted conspiracy theory that you could use to deny your child like the psychiatric help they needed to live. Cool.
Montana, the Dakotas, they all have laws banning transgender care. Wyoming does not. They just lost it on that battle. And the centerpiece of that is Casper.
Well, and of course, lurking behind all this is your daughter's unwillingness, in all likelihood, to go to high school,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And-
because this gives her an out. Jesus,
Yep.
terrible.
Yeah.
And
Terrible,
so
terrible.
at that point, we, like Todd said, he had his phone. We looked up Wyoming, and we said to the doctor and the social worker outside the room, because I was very careful not to have these conversations in front of her, because I know she uses this information to be manipulative and get what she wants. So outside the room, we had a conversation, and I said, we're not okay with Wyoming, and here's why. And tell me, if she were to go to Wyoming, what would be our rights? What's protecting us? What's protecting her? When someone goes to inpatient care, I was like, what's expected? Are we supposed to visit? Are you supposed to visit weekly? And how would we get from, I mean, we could drive, but we'd have to put our whole business on hold and drive the 8 hours to Wyoming. And is this expected of us?
We'd have to put our whole business on hold to drive to Wyoming, an 8-hour trip. Your child is trying to kill themselves. Oh, but it's an 8-hour drive. Oh, poor us. Being a goddamn adult is hard. Caring for a child is hard. Put on your big girl pants, get in your car, and drive them to the doctor they need.
Like, help me out here. Like, tell me what's supposed to happen. And I'll never forget, our CPS worker said to me, she said, oh, don't worry about Wyoming. The chances of that happening are so slim, and we'll all have a conversation and work through it together if that's what's on the table.
Yeah, and when that got said, you could see immediate discomfort in our daughter, like she had just been betrayed, and you could see almost we're just telling your parents that isn't what they said, but that's what the body language
I
said.
see. So the
Right.
notion here is that there's covert planning going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, and I told her
Yes.
that right away when
You
we
did,
left.
eh?
I said they are going to send her to Wyoming. That's what I said.
So 5 days go by because they couldn't find placement, and they were having trouble. On August 22nd, we were told that she was next in line for a bed at a facility in Billings. So when we left the hospital that day, we were thinking, okay, well, she's going to go to this Billings inpatient psychiatric care, and that's 4 hours from us. So if we're expected to visit or take things down
Okay,
there,
so let me ask you about this, because as far as you guys are concerned, your daughter, apart from her texts, was not showing any signs of suicidality. Right.
no,
Right.
Yeah.
no,
And-
she
and
never has.
She's not suicidal.
Right.
Aside from the texts and the testimony of officers and what he said to his friend, and also what he said to doctors, and you're claiming you're dismissing all of the other evidence because it doesn't conform to your narrative of just chronic liar. These give these to the worst parents of the year award, okay? Of the decade award even.
As a matter of
Right.
fact, she's always been like, I
Any
can't believe
self-harm,
somebody.
any cutting, anything like that?
No, she had one incident, and CPS jumped on this incident where I walked in her room and she had a scratch on her arm, and she had a counseling appointment the next day, and I was like, "Did you scratch yourself? Did you do that?"
Yeah.
And she tried to tell me, "Oh no, the cat did it," and I was like, "Okay," but I took a picture of it anyways, and to this day I have that picture, and I sent it to her counselor because she was going to counseling the next day, and I said, "I just found this on Jennifer's arm. What should I do? How should I act? Should I be concerned? Do I punish her? Like, what does someone do in this situation?" And
Yeah.
he said, "Thanks for sharing it with me. I will."
This is an insane story. One time, I noticed that my child had scratches on their arm. And so I took pictures of those scratches. And then I just assumed that my child was telling their therapist about how I abused him. So I sent a text message with the image of the scratches and feigned like I didn't know how they got there and asked what I should do about it. Should I punish my child for getting scratches? Like, you guys understand, like, that story she just told does not make any sense. Like, if it's self-harm, ask the therapist, like, hey, what should I do? I think my kid might be self-harming. That's a fair question. But thinking like this, lying to the therapist even in your retelling of the story, this is something that like an abuser would do, right? Abusers come up with cover stories. Rambe, thank you for the 5 gifted subs over on Twitch. I appreciate it. Oh, the alerts are going to try and read off every single one. There we go. I think, nope. There we go. Got him. Please, someone do one more. It's true. We're down to just one more. Al Gunther. We all love Al Gunther. He's a good lefty, bro. They both look like they're up for blood too. Yeah, specifically their trans child's blood.
We'll review it with her tomorrow in counseling. But again, it was a scratch. It
Yeah,
wasn't
okay.
a big bloody
Okay,
gash.
but there's no pattern here.
No, none
Okay,
at all.
now, despite the fact that she's not
Even Jordan Peterson's like, okay, but there's no pattern here. You basically told me that story for no reason. Melee Ethos, thank you for the gifted tier 1 sub over on Twitch. And you guys have done it. I appreciate it, folks. Boop, boop, doo doo, doodle doo 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 doo. All right. So, what can we say? I don't want to finish the rest of this anyway. Maybe we'll come back to it at some point, but like, I feel like we've got all we need on this one, you know? Like, they're abusive pieces of shit. And I feel like that's plainly obvious, even if you knew nothing else about this case. But, like, given the additional info we got at the very beginning about how, like, the conservative, non-trans supportive governor and lieutenant governor of Montana have both looked into this and been like, yep, nope, CPS was 100% correct to take this child away. Given that we know that, well, let's just say, like, I have seen nothing in here that would contradict that.